I don't even have like a clever intro or anything for this one. Just, this is something I've noticed people in the city doing, and I want to, address it, because people in the city and out of the city do this a lot, and I want to make sure people know what it is they're doing, and then go, oh, hey, I shouldn't be doing that, but then what should I be doing? And then go, hey, you're never going to believe what the next part of this video is. So what I'll see people do, like let's say I'm trying to push into here, ignore droning and everything. What I'll see some people do is like, walk around without their gun up and sort of keep their crosshair in a weird spot. Not what you should be doing. This video is going to be about aiming if you haven't read the title and thumbnail yet. First thing, you should never just be walking with your gun not ADS. Like, this is not something you should be doing. Because, then if you see someone, chances are, let's say there's a cabbie right here. Chances are the cabbie's already waiting for you. As soon as she sees you cross the threshold, she's just gonna, take you out and then, interrogation. So yeah, you've already lost that duel if you're just going like that. What you should be doing is, as soon as you do any kind of exposing, you should immediately be aimed right at where an enemy could be. First thing, if you have your scope up, you can already just pre-fire it at best, and at worst, just take a duel. But if you're, hip firing like this, nah, you're not hitting cabbie. Cabbie's gonna get that Antero. So avoid, not having your scope up as much as you can. Second thing is the crosshair placement. Because crosshair placement's a really fucking big part of aiming. The thing about crosshair placement is it should always, no matter what, be where an enemy could be at all times. Like this right here, this is good crosshair placement because this is where the enemy could be. I'm not aiming at the wall. I'm not aiming, over here. I'm not, aiming in this doorway if I'm trying to push this doorway. I'm just kind of keeping my crosshair where an enemy could be so that if an enemy is there, that was a dog shit, pre-fire, but you get the idea. You want your crosshair to always be where the enemy could be. Like, if you're holding this angle, you don't want to be looking, too far to the right. You don't want to be looking, like, up. You don't want to be looking down. You want to be looking, like, relatively chest head height, and you want your crosshair to stay here. This is another good example. If your team is calling that they're upper spiral, you can't get a perfect, idea of where they're going to be, but you want to keep your crosshair somewhere where you have to move your mouse as little as humanly possible. Because if they call for top spiral and they're going to drop down and your crosshair is here, it is so much harder to land an accurate shot like that as opposed to if your crosshair is already there. Good crosshair placement minimizes how much more work you need to do when you aim. Like, if you're already aiming at where you want to shoot, then there's very little work to be done. So yeah, when you're walking around, don't just idly walk, have your crosshair up, and always look where the enemy's going to be, and try to mentally prepare for it. Prepare for an enemy to be where you're looking at all times, so it minimizes the surprise. Like, just keep your crosshair where the enemy could be, and be ready to take that shot, because they're right there. So that's the basic thing I wanted to go over. Second thing I wanted to go over is sprinting. Because, if you're supposed to have your crosshair up all the time, then when the fuck are you supposed to sprint? Sprint when you are not in danger. Like, if you are very confident there's not going to be an enemy, like there's absolutely no one here, there's no one here, and no one up in hatch, you're safe to sprint. You can just... And then when you get to your spot, clear. And then once you get there, clear. Pretty much sprint to get from point A to point B. And then once you're at point B, clear it. And if point B is clear, point B to point C. Like, walking should really only be done when you're, taking these angles and trying to clear them. Sprinting, if the area is clear, sprint. Like, you shouldn't really be walking. You should basically always be in one of two states. Either clearing, you should always be ready for the duel. That's the first. Or you should be taking space and moving forward, which is sprinting. But being in the in-between, like this, where you're just sort of mindlessly walking without aiming and not sprinting, you're not doing much. You should be in one of the two. On the defense side of it, on the defense, you really want to fuck up someone's crosshair placement. That's what makes Frost really fucking strong. Because if I'm pushing into this window here, then I have to clear around here, right? And as I'm pushing in, I just have to start clearing as I go. Very first thing is Frost will fuck with your crosshair placement because you have to shoot down. And if you're looking down, you're not looking there, you're not looking there, you're not looking there. Even if you shoot the frost mat, you're shooting down. You're not shooting up. And hitting that kind of flick, really fucking hard to do. Second thing, when you're setting up sight, fucking with crosshair placement is one of the big things you want to do for the enemy. Like, that is why over-barricading can royally fuck you up. Because, like, if I have the mirror window here, you know, I just went mirror as an example. If the mirror window's right here, and, you know, you're pushing into B, you're trying to keep your crosshair on where I'm going to be. But I've got the door there. I've got this side of the mirror here. You don't know where I'm going to come from. And, you know, it's harder for you to aim here and then hit there than it is for you to just aim at one spot and that's the only way it can go. Like, let me show you what happens if I if I over-reinforce. Now, if it's over-reinforced, you know, that wall's covered, that wall's covered, that wall's covered. Maybe the enemy's barricaded here. So that's one less angle to worry about. If you play a very turtled strat, if you reinforce too much and you barricade too much, there are less angles to worry about as you're coming in. Like what I showed you before, I had to worry about there, 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 there. You know what I have to worry about now? There and there. That's only 2 angles. So if there's Mira, I can just... And then when she peeks, get the shot. Over-barricading and over-reinforcing helps the enemy, because they have less things to worry about. As opposed to, now if I want to cross from reception, you know, and try take A site, I've got to worry about here, and, you know, any of the spots you can hide over here to actually contest this door. Or I have to worry about this door here, which has even more spots to worry about, as well as, you know, the hall. Someone might try to flank here. So yeah, when you're setting up your defense, set it up in a way that fucks with enemy crosshair placement without just, you know, giving them free sight control. You want the enemy to have to look at as many things as humanly possible, because they're just one person. They can't, you know, they can't John Wick their way out of it. But you, as a defender, only have to look at, you know, one thing. You just have to look at... That's part of what makes hard breachers on sites with external walls so good. Like, if they have a thermite and they just kind of open up this wall here, that's now something that we, as defenders, have to worry about. Or, let me go to the basement. So yeah, if you're playing the basement, this external wall here, if it's reinforced, you are nice and cozy. You can just kind of focus on the hall here, maybe have, you know, maybe have a head hole all the way over here so you can contest this hall here. You're pretty safe when the external wall's up. But if the enemy has, you know, like a thermite or something and does manage to breach this wall, even if they're going for a push somewhere else, that's another thing that you as a defender have to look at. So now, you know, you've got to worry about that hall, you've got to worry about this breach now, which is massive for attackers. You have to worry about this hall here. You have to worry about the hall over here. Like, the point of the hard breachers, when they open walls, is to make more spots for the defenders to be nervous. Siege is basically just a back and forth of you and the defenders making each other nervous. Defenders set up in a way where they control all the places you have to look at. Hard breachers make new holes so that the defenders have more holes to worry about. It's a back and forth of who's more nervous. And then, you know, it comes down to just crosshair placement, looking at the right thing at the right time, using your information, etc., etc. So, yeah, that's a really fucking sloppy, here's the thing I've noticed, thing on aiming, basically. Aiming and walking and sprinting. And a lot of crosshair placement, more than I expected to do. And yeah, peace.